And it's a tremendous survey. I think, well, Andrew will tell us more, but I think we've got sort of hundreds of businesses have fed into that. So very much looking forward to the insight that Andrew will give us on the growing demand for service storage and Ebbs fleet, and particularly really around the impact on businesses and the economy. So Mark Welsh will also be available, who is a KCC transport person, so he'll be available as well. But Andrew's going to give us the main sort of insights on this. So won't keep you any longer. Hand over to Andrew. Thank you.
Apologies, I've loaded, hopefully people can see that, and shared a screen. I'm unashamedly using a presentation that Mark Welch used for the Joint Transport Board on the 5th of March. So thank you, Mark, in advance, and Mark's around hopefully to answer questions as well this evening. But just wanted to present firstly on the business survey work that Kent County Council has been doing, and then also just wanted to touch on sort of next steps for us as well. So if you, hopefully you can see that reasonably well. What we effectively agreed with this group and with others is that we felt the business voice was important, the petition and the results of the petition, and what Philip has presented this evening is great, and I think we need to sort of capture some of that in the work that we move forward with. But this area was specific around the business survey. Kent County Council effectively ran a survey from October to January. I think it's important to say that it wasn't a sample survey, so we didn't go out to a whole series of businesses asking them whether Eurostar was important and the international services were important for them. It was for businesses to interact and to engage with. So those businesses that were engaged, we expect to be interested in the international services element. And so therefore you need to take the findings from this evening based on that. We work with Dartford Borough Council as well as Ashford Borough Council, Kent County Council together, the Chamber of Commerce, Visit Kent, and we have a group that meets regularly to look to try and support this activity and others. And we've looked to try and work with local authorities across Kent and even wider to share the petition, the business survey. But I think we know that we didn't reach everyone. I've spoken to a number of businesses that have subsequently come out and said, I didn't respond to the survey, but very supportive of the campaign and would like to do more. So we're conscious it's a good result. We had 686 responses in total. What we've done is, and Kent County Council has done, is a bit of screening on that. So we wanted to understand how many businesses that represents. Effectively represents 528 business responses. Multi-responses, obviously, therefore, for some of those businesses, and some of them very passionate, and I think that should have showed through what we got through. As probably we would expect, because we're all on this call and we want to see the services returned, 99% of all responses wanted to see the return of services. So I think that's a very strong message from the business community. There's a good number of them and a very strong message that we can then take forward on that. I think what Kent County Council wanted to do as well is to capture kind of the weight of that as well in relation to those business numbers. We know that's not all the businesses in Kent that potentially could respond, but they wanted to capture what that meant in terms of potential employment within the area. And within that, they've been able to calculate that represents over 30,000 employees within Kent and the wider country. So that is a strong message, I think, to say that this the results of this survey it should be listened to, and clearly there's some weight behind it in terms of not only the number of businesses, but also the employment that they generate. So in terms of interactions with Europe and what makes up the responses, 477 responses detailed. They are either making sales within Europe, either have supply chains which they're interacting with in Europe, or have got visitors that are coming in all sorts of different forms. So there's a series of different interactions that businesses are having within that marketplace. Of the businesses, 94% said at least the service is quite important for their business. So clearly there is a good majority of those that see the weight of the service that was there before. And what we wanted to do as well is not just look at today, but potentially the opportunity moving forward in terms of marketplace. And it was encouraging to see that 63% of businesses are planning growth will mean further travel into Europe, which also then shows the potential for growth within the service within Kent. It's about impact as well. So there's a number of questions that were raised around impact. And I think this demonstrates very clearly the business view. And I hear from businesses all the time. It's a subject that comes up in every meeting I go to. I think I say that every time I speak, but it is. And I think this sort of reflects that. So 89% of respondents believe Eurostar service is not stopping, is having an impact on custom for their business. So that is quite a striking number in terms of the weight of those businesses that responded. 83% business surveyed indicate that they know of other businesses affected as well. So it's not just about those businesses that responded necessarily, but it's about the fact that there is a wider impact within the area. What we also wanted to do is have a look at those that are still using the service, because I think this is an important element. So certainly in conversations that we've had with Eurostar in the past, they've said, well, so what? You've got people will travel into London and will utilise the service, and we're seeing good patronage through St Pancras. So we wanted to understand that dynamic. And that although we've got 58% of respondents state current use of London St Pancras, which still means that they see rail is important, and international rail is important, and a good mode of transport. That does represent impact for those businesses. So questions were asked around what that entails. And I think this sort of reflects some of the stuff that Philip was talking about as well in terms of the resident petition. We know that travelling up to St Pancras, the impacts are more time that is expended by business employees and businesses themselves, more cost, not only in relation to extra train travel costs to get up to London, but we're also hearing evidence from businesses that means they can't do day trips anymore. So it's overnight costs, additional costs, partly maybe because they can't get up to London for an early enough train through the other services and other things. So additional costs within that. We know that there's elements around fewer Eurostar trips, fewer international trips overall, and there's an element of they're having to diversify where they go and do business around different international destinations. So I think that all in all starts to help provide a good positive picture around the impact, the importance for businesses of the international services in Kent, but also the impact that the current dearth of services is actually having within the economy and the wider area. So we need to sort of change this dynamic, and it's about sort of getting that weight of business view behind the campaign that we're looking to deliver. There's obviously a high visibility of the issue within the businesses surveyed. So they're an engaged audience, as we sort of spoke about at the beginning. So 99% of them businesses had been aware of the lack of international rail services prior to doing the survey work. 99% of them also share the concern, I think, of probably everyone in this meeting, concern of lack of any future services or commitment to services that there are. The other aspect was around, services when they return and the critical elements for businesses around services when they return. So questions around the service that there is or has been previously in Kent. The businesses were happy with the stations and the infrastructure that there was. The issue was really around service frequency, timings, which were cited as the key sort of issues. And I think this is something that has come up with Eurostar in the past around diminishing services in Kent, times, and other aspects. So it's not just about getting services back, but I think it's about getting frequency and the timings are right to ensure businesses can go and do day trips to Paris, Brussels, Amsterdam, or wherever it may be able to do their business and then return. So I think there's a conclusion part that Mark's put in there around, we know that 24 years of sustained service and investment in Kent is already there. We're ready to go. We understand, I think, the position around the entry and exit system and the requirement about border issues, which we've raised as a concern in terms of additional infrastructure. But beyond that, we've got infrastructure that is ready to go and ready to be used. So what next? And Mark and I sit, as I said, within this group where we've got a number of organisations within Kent that are engaged and looking to support the campaign. Mark and his team at KCC are doing further analysis work on the business survey, so there'll be a bit more in-depth report that will be able to be shared more widely later on once that's delivered, and we hope that's relatively soon. And hopefully we'll provide a little bit of extra elements around geographic location as well, which Philip has already provided for the petition. We're using that, and we're developing up cases both for government and also for the operators, Eurostar or potentially any other operators interested in international services. So we're working on those cases at the moment. The timeline is to try and coincide with the delivery of those and the campaign back to Parliament and back to government and Eurostar around the 30th anniversary, which is May, of the start of the services through the Eurotunnel and through to the continent. So we feel that is a landmark event, and we're working towards trying to make a lot of noise around that period of time. So we're very positive, and we're very grateful to the businesses that have engaged so far. We're looking still to engage with businesses and seek business champions for the area. So if there's anyone on this call who would like to then become part of that, we would seek quotes from them and to get involved, both from press perspective, but also in relation to the activities and campaign, to be able to then provide those quotes as good evidence as part of building those cases. So that's probably where we've got to at this stage. I think hopefully we've made some good progress in the last 6 months. Safe to say as well, we've been in touch with Bushra and the team as part of this. We've been seeking to support the petition as much as we can, and actively doing that through our channels, certainly over the last 3 or 4 months, and hopefully that's helped. Some days I look at it and it's gone up by 1,000, and other days it's gone up by 100, and I'm trying to work out quite how that all works, but the numbers are successfully going up, so we'll continue to do that as well. I will stop there and